suspend the keenness between cards, a morning rush. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Café Luna as the Monday
Here are your
rush began
coffees.
to build,
Thank you so much.
creating the familiar symphony of
perfect.
grinding coffee beans, steaming milk, and quiet conversations that marked the beginning of another work week in downtown Cedar Falls. Behind the counter, baristas moved with practiced efficiency, taking orders and crafting drinks, while the line of customers stretched toward the door. Sarah Mitchell stood near the end of that line, her fingers absently checking her coat pocket for her wallet, while her mind remained focused on the presentation she would be giving in less than 2 hours. At 32, Sarah had spent the last decade building Mitchell Marketing Solutions from a small startup into one of the most respected agencies in the region. But success hadn't made mornings any less hectic, or her need for strong coffee any less urgent. This particular Monday morning had been challenging from the moment her alarm had failed to go off. Sarah had overslept, rushed through her morning routine, and grabbed what she thought was her regular purse on the way out the door. It wasn't until she was standing in line at Café Luna that she realized she had accidentally taken her emergency bag, instead, the one she kept in her car for unexpected situations, which contained only a backup credit card she rarely used. A small embarrassment. As Sarah reached the counter and placed her order, a large dark roast coffee with room for cream, she pulled out the backup credit card with the casual confidence of someone who had never had to worry about whether a purchase would go through. The barista, a friendly young woman named Emma, swiped the card and waited for the approval that usually came within seconds. Instead, the card reader beeped with a harsh sound that indicated a declined transaction. "I'm sorry, Mom," Emma said with professional sympathy. "Your card was declined. Would you like to try another payment method?" Sarah felt heat rise to her cheeks as she realized what had happened. This backup card must have expired without her noticing, sitting unused in the emergency bag she rarely touched. In her regular purse, safely at home on her kitchen counter, were her current credit cards, cash, and everything else she needed for a normal Monday. I don't have another card with me," Sarah admitted, the embarrassment of the situation settling over her like a physical weight. Behind her, she could sense the growing impatience of other customers waiting to place their orders. "I'm so sorry. I've got it," said a quiet voice from behind her in line. An unexpected gesture, Sarah turned to see a man in his early 30s, wearing jeans and a simple gray sweater that had seen better days. He had kind brown eyes and a gentle smile as he stepped forward and handed his credit card to the barista. "Please, add her coffee to my order," he said. "And I'll have a medium coffee black." "You don't have to do that," Sarah protested, feeling both grateful and uncomfortable with accepting help from a stranger. "Really? I can just skip the coffee this morning." The man shook his head with the kind of calm certainty that suggested he had made his decision and wouldn't be swayed by polite protests. "It's just coffee," he said simply. "We all have days when things don't go as planned. Consider it paying forward for all the times someone probably helped me when I needed it." Sarah found herself without words for a moment, struck by the simple kindness of the gesture from someone who clearly didn't have the kind of disposable income that made spontaneous generosity easy. His clothes were clean but worn, his shoes practical rather than fashionable, and everything about his appearance suggested someone who counted his dollars carefully. "Thank you," Sarah said finally, meaning it more deeply than he could probably understand. "That's incredibly kind of you. Can I at least get your name so I can pay you back?" "Jake Mitchell," he replied as the barista handed them their coffees. "And you don't need to pay me back. Just maybe help someone else when you get the chance." "A surprising connection, Mitchell," Sarah repeated, caught off guard by the coincidence of sharing a last name. "I'm Sarah Mitchell. Are we possibly related?" Jake laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Mitchell is pretty common, but you never know. My family has been in Cedar Falls for generations." "What about you?" "Same, actually. My grandfather started a small advertising company here in the 1960s. "Mitchell Advertising?" Jake asked with surprise. "I remember hearing about that from my dad. Didn't the owner's granddaughter take it over and turn it into something much bigger. Sarah felt a flutter of nervousness. This was the moment when people's attitudes often shifted, when the simple human connection gave way to the complications that came with knowing about her professional success and financial status. That would be me, Sarah admitted quietly, though I renamed it Mitchell Marketing Solutions about 10 years ago. She watched carefully for Jake's reaction, half expecting the warmth in his expression to cool with the awkwardness that often accompanied such revelations. Instead, he simply nodded with what looked like genuine respect. That's impressive. Building something lasting is hard work. He glanced at his watch and picked up his coffee. I should get going. I have to open the community center in 20 minutes. It was nice meeting you, Sarah. I hope your Monday gets better from here. Hey. An unexpected encounter. Sarah watched him leave, feeling oddly unsettled by the encounter. Here was someone who had paid for a stranger's coffee, despite clearly having limited means himself, who had treated her with simple kindness, without knowing anything about her wealth or success, and who had walked away without expecting recognition or reward. She sipped her coffee thoughtfully as she made her way to her office, building 3 blocks away, Jake's words echoing in her mind. Just maybe help someone else when you get the chance. The presentation that morning went well, as Sarah had known it would. The client was impressed. The team performed flawlessly, and by noon she had secured a contract worth several $100,000. But throughout the day, Sarah found her thoughts returning to that morning's encounter, to Jake's quiet generosity, and the way he had made helping feel easy and natural rather than significant or burdensome. That afternoon, Sarah did something she rarely had time for. She looked up the Cedar Falls Community Center online and learned that it was a nonprofit organization that provided after-school programs, job training, and various social services to families in the area. The director's name was listed as Jake Mitchell. Understanding motivation, Sarah spent the evening researching the community center's work and financial situation. What she discovered painted a picture of an organization doing remarkable work with severely limited resources. They ran on grants, donations, and the dedication of volunteers, providing services to hundreds of families who depended on their programs. She also learned that Jake Mitchell had founded the center 5 years ago, after working as a social worker and seeing how many families fell through the gaps in the social services system. He drew a minimal salary, apparently living simply so that more of the center's budget could go directly to programming. The next morning, Sarah returned to Café Lunar at the same time, hoping to encounter Jake again. When he appeared in line behind her, she couldn't help but smile. "Good morning," Sarah said. "My card should work today. I brought the right purse. But I'd like to buy your coffee, if you'll let me." Jake smiled with recognition. "You don't owe me anything, but I'd be happy to accept the gesture." "How did your Monday turn out?" "Much better than it started," Sarah replied. "Actually, I spent some time yesterday learning about the community center you run. It's impressive work." A meaningful conversation over their coffees. Seated at a small table by the window, Sarah and Jake fell into easy conversation about the center's work, the challenges of nonprofit funding, and the families they served. Jake spoke with passion about the programs they had created and frustration about the services they couldn't provide due to budget limitations. "We have a waiting list for our after-school program," Jake explained. "We have space for 30 kids, but we have over 50 families who need care while parents are at work. And our job training program is completely volunteer, run because we can't afford to hire professional instructors." Sarah listened carefully, her business mind already analyzing the situation and identifying opportunities. When Jake had to leave for work, she asked if she could schedule a time to visit the center and learn more about their operations. "Of course," Jake said with enthusiasm. "Though I should warn you, we're pretty bare bones compared to what you're probably used to in the corporate world." "Sometimes bare bones shows you what's essential," Sarah replied. Full circle 3 months later, Sarah stood in the newly renovated community center, watching Jake cut the ribbon on the expanded facility that now included dedicated spaces for job training, after-school programming, and family counseling services. The renovation had been funded by a matching grant program that Sarah had established through her company, with significant personal contributions that she had kept anonymous until Jake insisted on knowing who the primary donor was. "I still can't believe you did all this," Jake said as they toured the new computer lab, where teenagers were already learning coding and digital design skills. "When you bought my coffee that second morning, I never imagined it would lead to this." "Actually, you bought my coffee first," Sarah reminded him with a smile. "And that's what started everything. You showed me what real generosity looks like, giving when it costs you something, expecting nothing in return." "I bought you a $3 coffee," Jake protested. "You bought me a $3 coffee when that $3 probably mattered to your budget," Sarah corrected gently. "You taught me something important about the difference between charity and kindness. Charity is giving from your excess. Kindness is giving from your heart." Nima, the barista from Café Luna, who had witnessed their first encounter, was now employed as the center's administrative coordinator, another outcome of Sarah's involvement with the organization. She approached them with a folder of registration forms for new families joining the programs. "We're at capacity for the after-school program now," Emma reported happily. "And we have 3 companies that have agreed to provide job training instructors." As Sarah watched Jake review the registrations, his face lighting up with each new family that would be served, she realized that the most valuable business lesson she had learned in years hadn't come from a conference or a book, but from a stranger who had paid for her coffee on a Monday morning when her card was declined. "You know what I learned from all this?" Sarah said as they prepared to address the families gathered for the opening celebration. "What's that?" "That sometimes being wealthy isn't about how much money you have. It's about being rich in the things that actually matter: compassion, generosity, the willingness to help others even when it costs you something." "You were wealthier than me that Monday morning in Café Luna, even though I had millions in the bank." Jakey smiled, understanding the deeper truth in her words. "And now we both get to be wealthy in the best possible way, by helping others find opportunities to build better lives." As they walked together to the podium to welcome the families to their new center, Sarah reflected on how a declined credit card and a $3 gesture of kindness had taught her more about the true meaning of wealth than all her years of business success. Sometimes the most valuable lessons came from unexpected moments of vulnerability, from strangers who showed us what generosity really meant, and from realizing that the richest life was one spent in service to others rather than in service to ourselves.